Hi everyone, I'm Kimberly Wallbank from Quality System Services. Today we're talking about one of the most inspected and most painful documents in life sciences, batch records. Too often I see records that are either missing critical information or are so bloated they create unnecessary risk. In this video, we'll cover what batch records must include, common mistakes small companies make, and how to keep them lean, usable, and inspection ready. A batch record is the documented history of how a batch was produced, tested, and released. It's not just paperwork, it's the evidence that you followed improved instructions, the right materials were used, critical steps were performed correctly, and the batch meets the requirements. If it isn't written down from an inspector's perspective, it didn't happen. Inspectors heavily rely on batch records because they tell the real story of execution. When something goes wrong, like a complaint, deviation, or a recall, batch records are one of the first things reviewed. Strong batch records protect your patients, your product, and your company. Let's talk about the essentials. Every batch record must clearly show what product and batch this is for, that improved instructions were followed, which materials were used and verified, who performed each step and when, any required checks or measurements throughout the process, any deviations or unusual events that occurred, and the final disposition of the batch. These elements create traceability and accountability. Some of the most common inspection findings come from simple documentation gaps. Inspectors frequently see missing initials or dates, steps that were skipped or not documented, corrections without explanations, and deviations handled informally not documented, or reuse batch records with outdated information. These aren't big science failures, they're execution and documentation failures. On the flip side, many companies overcorrect and create batch records that are far too complex. Loaded batch records often include fields that no one uses, redundant checks already controlled elsewhere, long copied sections from SOPs, excessive free text areas that invite inconsistencies. The more complex the record, the more likely mistakes will happen. So what does include in a good batch record? A good batch record strikes a balance. It should captures what matters for quality, guide the operator step by step, reduce the chance of errors, and be easy to review, approve, and archive. Lean does not mean risky, it means intentional. Here are some practical ways to keep batch records lean. Reference SOPs instead of copying them. Focus on critical steps, not every micro action. Use structured fields like checkboxes and tables. Limit free text to where it adds value. And make sure the record reflects how the process actually runs. If the record doesn't match reality, people will work around it. Think of it this way. Your SOP tells you how to perform the process. Your batch record proves that you did perform it correctly for this specific batch. The batch record doesn't need to teach, it needs to confirm. Batch record review is not a rubber stamp. Reviewers and approvers should check, is everything complete? Are there patterns or recurring issues? Were deviations properly handled? Timely, thoughtful reviews strengthen the quality and inspection readiness. Batch records are your quality story. Missing information creates compliance risk. Too much information creates execution risk. Lean, well-designed records support both quality and efficiency. Small companies don't need complicated batch records. They need smart ones. If you want help creating your batch records, reach out. I'd love to support you. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and tap that bell so you never miss a video.